Thank you, class, for settling down. Today we're going to be learning about an SCP. I know before you were only learning about the basics, but I think it's about time you hear an actual one. SCP-1003, nicknamed the Tapeworm Child. It's a nasty one, but most of them are nasty. Anyway, let's get into it. Special Containment Procedures. Foundation currently has 10 instances of SCP-1003-2, designated SCP-1003-2AK, in its possession, all of which are held in separate, heavily guarded security cells at Bioresearch Area 13. All personnel at this area undergo regular compulsory testing for signs of its infection. Personnel wishing to access it may only do so for the express purpose of research, must have a level 4 security clearance, and must have written permission from the O5 Council beforehand. They are to wear biohazard suits when entering its cells and go through an intensive disinfection process afterwards. No animals of the order Carnivora are allowed to be allowed at this research area under any circumstances. Description: SCP-1003-1 is an adult tapeworm of the species Echinococcus granulosus, known for causing Hydatid disease. Because of its species, SCP-1003-1 inhabits the small intestines of carnivores, typically canids, where it produces eggs that are passed on in the host's feces. These eggs can survive up to an undetermined amount of years in the outside environment. When the eggs of SCP-1003 enter the gastrointestinal tract of human subjects, hereby designated as the host, via consumption of contaminated food, they hatch into larvae, which burrow into the host's tissues. It is at this stage that SCP-1003's anomalous properties begin to manifest. Instead of developing into cysts, the larvae develop into creatures that resemble human embryos, hereby designated as SCP-1003-2. The vast majority of SCP-1003-2 specimens die before they have a chance to develop. Those that survive are usually those that are embedded in nutrient-rich tissue, such as hepatic tissue. As they develop, they absorb nutrients from the surrounding tissue, which often causes problems for the intermediate host. SCP-1003-2's development follows mostly the pattern of a normal human prenatal development, but at a faster rate. By 8 weeks, it is as mature as a 3-week-old neonate, although a similar size to an 8-week-old embryo. Once it has reached this stage, it will actively consume the intermediate host from within using sharp hooked teeth. Its growth is accelerated to an even greater extent as it is doing this. By the time it has fully consumed the intermediate host, it will have developed into a child. The physical age of the child typically ranges from 10 months to 11 years, depending on the mass of the intermediate host. In extreme cases, it can be as high as 13 to 15 years. Once SCP-1003-2 is finished, it will lose its host's teeth, along with its cannibalistic tendencies. From where on, it will functionally be indistinguishable from a human in every aspect, with no knowledge or memory of it being a parasite. It will even possess learned skills that would be expected of a child at a parent age, despite there being no way it could have learned them. Instances of SCP-1003-2 are usually taken to orphanages and sometimes adopted to foster parents. Their only anomalous properties at this stage is that their DNA is somehow cell identical to that of Echinococcus granulosus, and their body fluids, including sweat and saliva, contain tapeworm protoscolex, which infect carnivores and develop into SCP-1003-1, thus continuing the cycle. Addendum: testing of SCP-1003 with animals such as cattle and sheep, which are common intermediate hosts of Echinococcus granulosus, have found that its anomalous properties only manifest in humans. In all other cases, its life cycle is normal and causes Hydatid disease in the intermediate host. Well, it's an interesting one. Pretty nasty, like I said. We'll pass out some sheets of paper. I want you all to write it down, some containment ideas, or something like how you would do it. These in by next class, and yes, it's going towards your grade. Not like it matters. Anyways, see you next time, class.